Walker told me I have AIDS.
Hey,
What's up?
dude, you want to hit it this doink?
Nah, man, that's actually one of the leading causes of cancer right there. Get that out of your hand, man. Come on. Get your life together.
Crap's that about, dog?
Hello, Benji. I'm pregnant. I need you to come back and help me raise our boy. It's time you change your ways.
What's up?
Dude, you want to hit it this doink?
Nah, man, that's actually one of the leading causes of cancer right there. The leading cause of cancer right there.
Oh, I didn't see you there. It's me. Hello, I'm Matt McCancer, and this is my new apprentice, Brandy. He's been gone through medical school, been working on getting him into the real field. I'm here to provide an explanation for the sad circumstances around these two boys, Micah and Brandy. These two boys lived completely different lives. On one hand, Micah lived what I guess you could call a near perfect life. He was the kind of boy that always made the right decision. He went to a church twice every Sunday. He was a straight-A student and wasn't afraid to say no when offered to join in some bad activities. Benji was quite the opposite, however. He lived a life full of regrets and bad decisions. He was sexually active from a young age, a very young age, with many different people. He does attend public school, but only on his own time, however, because he skips most days to do drugs with his friends. In the end, though, none of this mattered, as both of these boys died from the same type of cancer. That was lung cancer. It's very sad.
Tragic.
It's very sad. Not take it away. Take it away. That's okay.
Alright, so, well, now I believe we need to connect this to the real life, down to the basics. So, cancer is ultimately caused by genes mutating in cells that cause the cell cycle to rapidly and uncontrollably produce. And this rarely can be stopped. And once it's in the final stages, it cannot be stopped, in fact. The cancer is just caused by division that just goes over and over again. Just keeps on spinning. Just creates tumors that...
Malignant tumors.
Yeah,
not
malignant tumors.
benign tumors.
Sorry, I'm still learning.
He's an apprentice.
So...
I say it's time to cut into dive deep into the nitty gritty. To fully understand, well, here, I'll explain the two situations. As you can see, Micah, he was a near perfect boy. He didn't smoke cigarettes or anything like Benji, but he did have a long line of family history of lung cancer, and his grandparent, his grandpa, his grandpappy, Pat, and his uncle, I think, David.
Might have been Zach, actually.
Zach.
I don't remember. I think... No, David was... It was David, wasn't it?
Yeah, I hear it.
It was.
Yeah, I think it,
Yeah.
probably.
Zach's on the other side.
Zach's the other.
Yes.
He's still alive. He was the one who
Yeah.
talked to the other day.
Yeah.
He was crying a lot.
Yeah, he was
A little bit
sad.
of had an easy cry. Well, he had a long line of family history that actually some of those genes were passed down through his family line that were given to him. Very sad. But on the other hand, Benji, he was smoking cigarettes, 3 packs a day, as you probably already know.
Yeah.
He was making not the best of choices. He actually could have died from many different cancers if he was unlucky enough. As he was sexually active from a young age, that could have caused bad cervical cancer.
If he was a girl.
I actually have a patient in Sector D of the hospital right now with cervical cancer. It's a sad story, but that's for another time.
Sorry.
But to really show what's happening inside of these boys that cause the cancer, that ultimately cause their demise, we're going to have to dive deep into the cell cycle and what's causing this cell division to uncontrollably and rapidly continue. So let's cut to the chase here. This is actually a diagram I have of the cell cycle. Starts with phase G1, which is actually usually where the mutation is occurring. Because this is the growth phase, the first growth phase. And what can happen is, what's supposed to happen is the tumor suppressor genes and the PO genes are actually supposed to work in harmony to add a very good balance, either continue the cell cycle or stop it right where it starts. But sometimes what happens is the PO genes will hit the overdrive a little bit, and it'll aggressively non-stop divide, and the cells will not stop dividing until it ultimately kills them sometimes. And this happens in the G1 phase, which is where that happens. And then the next phase is S, which stands for synthesis, which is actually where the DNA copies the cell copies its own DNA to prepare for mitosis, which is coming up. Next phase, G2, which is the second growth phase. And more growth in the cell, more growth to prepare for mitosis. And finally, there's mitosis, which is the division of the nucleus, as we have written here. This is really where it ultimately takes place, where the cell divides. And we're going to actually explain more of what's happening during mitosis. So, mitosis begins with a phase called interphase, which is actually where each chromosome makes an exact duplicate of itself, the sister chromatids. This is where, that's where that happens. And in prophase, the next phase, the centrioles, which have divided, then they move apart, and the nuclear membrane actually pretty much disintegrates and is almost completely disintegrated by the time it is finished. The next phase, metaphase, the double chromosomes, the centromeres attached to the spindle fibers, actually line up at the middle of the cell. That's metaphase. And I'll let Brandy take it away for these last few phases. Prove that he's worthy to take on the real field.
Right, so now we have a process called anaphase. In the early stages, the centromeres actually split and go to their respective sides of the cell. In the later stages of anaphase, the chromosomes have reached their spots and they're satisfied. The cell membrane begins to pinch at the center. Then, after that, we have a process called cytokinesis, one of the final stages of mitosis.
Well, telophase.
Telophase.
No, you forgot about telophase.
Telophase.
Can't forget about telophase.
Every time.
Telophase is in between anaphase and cytokinesis. He's just an apprentice.
I can't remember what telophase was.
It's right here.
Oh, here's telophase. Well, in telophase, the cell membrane actually completes constriction,
And then this is
And-
cytokinesis.
in cytokinesis, then, the nuclear membrane actually,
It's fully pinched.
forms around separated chromosomes.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that really brings together the whole process of mitosis and, honestly, the whole cell division process.
And what's happening here with also every cancer patient that has this is after this cytokinesis, it immediately goes back to G1 phase, which is normal, the growth 1 phase. But what happens is those mutated genes will cause the cell to rapidly progress and rapidly continue through the cell cycle. And that's what happened with these two sad stories of two sad boys, both from completely opposite beginnings. But you know what? Cancer can affect anyone. Cancer can kill the most perfect person and probably the worst person.
Yeah.
It happens to all of us. Well, I've got a surgery to head out to.
I've got a surgery to watch.
He's got a surgery to watch. We'll see you later.